Okay, group, it's Sunday night, and I'd like to get right down to what I usually try to do. And as I said in an email you may have gotten, or the announcement that I put up, and you probably got it twice because I went back and corrected a spelling error and didn't uncheck the box to send the email again, but maybe it's just as well. Uh, I'm doing my Sunday night video to try to catch us up on what we did the week before, what you can expect to come. And I told you that was going to be the standard operating procedure. And the reason I do this is because things change every week. Things change in the way we run our course, things change in perhaps the news, perhaps what we've put into the course for the week. Always trying to stick with the same game plan, as it were, to try to get to the outcomes that we need. But things do change. Life is flexible. The sports world is perhaps more flexible than many parts of the world. So one of the things that I want to do each week is go over things in kind of a fluid manner. And if I just sit here and write things up and prepare things in advance, that isn't working. The other thing, as I said in the email, is sometimes there's going to be some important information. And just like if you were sitting in a classroom with me, this is where I'd let you know things. And if you don't log in and look at the video, guess what? You're not going to know what you need to know. And so far, only about half the class had used the video this week. And look, I'm not trying to promote myself as some wizard or some great technical guy or wonderful personality that's on the video. That's not the point. The point is that people who use what is available to them in the course generally have more success. And we really, in the faculty, we really look to provide you with the materials you need to understand the subject matter, to understand what you need to learn, what do you need to get out of this course. We try to do it in many different ways. So please, take a look at it. It's kind of silly. This is like sending me, my telling you this in a video is like sending you an email to tell you the email isn't working. I understand that. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid, okay? Maybe an old guy, but sometimes I can try to figure out new tricks, and this is one of them that seems to work. That being aside, now let's go ahead and see what we can accomplish. All right, last week I gave you an awful lot of reading to do when I introduced the stuff from the Boston Fed, but I think it really did a lot to explain very clearly a lot of the workings of the business of sport, how people make money, what works, what doesn't, why are some things what they are when they seem that they ought to be something else. You know, we said sports sometimes is irrational, and one of the principles of economics is it's all based on rational thought. Well, last week, maybe I asked a couple of questions that were a little trickier than they ought to be. Can a business really have its profits regulated by some other entity, other than, say, the government? What power do leagues have over their members? And you started to debate what should they do. The other part of the debate was, should teams just be in business to make money above all else? Or do they have another purpose? I'm kind of venturing back a little bit into sport and society if you took that course. But the truth of the matter is, we can do a lot of thinking about how the business is run and what do they intend to do. When you enter a business, do you go in just to make a profit? Or do you go into that business to do something, and if you do it right, profits will come? That was kind of the question. I saw some very interesting answers, and again, I'm really happy with the way people have participated, and that's what I want to happen. I did try, and I think I succeeded in getting all the comments I had to make back to people by Tuesday. Now, this week that's probably going to be a little different because there's two graded discussion boards. It's going to take me a little longer to do too. I don't give people just a number grade and say, oh, you got an 82 or you got a 95. I like to give you feedback. I think you deserve to know why you're getting the grade that you are. And remember, the important components are participation, and participation in a really substantive, considered, measured way. Good discussion is where we're going to learn things. Okay, what's going to happen this week? Well, it's a little redundant because last week I asked you, using the Boston Federal Reserve Bank material, to read what they called innings 1 through 4. And that gave you the big picture. Now I'm asking you to go back and really read inning 4 again. Because what it talks about is the same stuff that's in chapter 3 of the book. We're starting to talk about monopolies and antitrust rules. And if you remember from your basic economics, what is a monopoly? It's the single seller, right? It's the one entity that controls the market. And when they control the market, they control prices. And they control who gets what, who sells what. It's real power. It's real economic power. Is it right? Is there a reason governments regulate monopolies? Are leagues organized as monopolies, or are they organized as something else and they fell into being monopolies? One of the things you're going to see in this week's work is it uses the word cartel, which is sort of another word for monopoly, and it talks about the NCAA. And if you've been following along in the past month or two, what's happened to the NCAA? The, quote, Power Five, unquote, conferences, the 65 biggest schools with the big athletic budgets, and those 5 conferences, what are the ACC, the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. They've broken away, not thoroughly, but they've gotten the opportunity to go off and set their own policy and make their own rules. Is this a sign of a cartel falling apart? It could be. Could have major implications for college sports, and we all know college sports is a pretty big business. But a real concern this week is looking again at how monopolies work. What do leagues do? Why do leagues exist? Why do they exist, and do they work economically? You know, one of the things you're going to see this week, it introduces the concept of a closed league or an open league. And in American Major League professional sport, everything is pretty much a closed league. And by that I mean there's a fixed number of teams. No matter what happens competitively this year, everybody's going to be back next year, barring expansion or the even more rare instance of somebody going out of business, right? But the rest of the world and the major business sport worldwide, we all know, is soccer, football, okay? They operate on a different concept. They operate on this thing called promotion and relegation. It's called an open league. And the members of each league are not exactly the same every year. Well, take the English Premier League. You know, I haven't bothered to check my last standings to see what's up, but there's been times as many as 5 of the 20 teams have been in London, sometimes 6. That would never happen in a closed league. That would never happen in the U.S. But it happens there, and the model works. What's the difference? Take a look at how things are organized and how chapter 3 presents this stuff to you. I think it's very interesting stuff. Because now you're going to start seeing where do some of the arguments people were making in the last week about salary caps and regulating through revenue sharing and all that. Yeah, it's all interesting stuff on its own, but now as it starts to fit together, I think you're going to see an entirely, maybe not different picture, but a developing bigger picture. And this is where I really think we need to be this week. So this week's discussion question is going to be a little different. It's centered around monopoly. It's centered on how leagues work and what do they do. Because we haven't even gotten into the competitive side of what leagues do. And in a week or two, we're going to start talking about maybe a little more fun topic of competitive balance and how do we enhance that and maintain that, and is that good for the sport, or is that hurting the sport in any way, or what should be done. And I think you're going to see how the factors used to maintain on the field, excuse me, on the field practice affect what's going on in the back office. So all this comes together. All this is starting to build on what we did the week before. That's why it's so important to keep up with things, okay? Discussion board participation, as usual, going to be really important this week. We're kind of trending towards where I'm going to be asking you to do your first major assignment. I think I told you the way I do things is, by the way, we're going to entering week 3. The midterm assignment in this course, by the way, does not come in week 4. It comes in week 5. So that's a little different than what you may be used to, but that's how we're going to do things. Really, this class has been great. I think you set a record for me, and for maybe the very first time when I asked for an assignment to be done, just a simple written assignment of just throwing in the three issues of sport. Everybody did it. That just doesn't happen, and for that, I want to congratulate you as a group. So it's the interest I think that people have in the topic and the subject is showing. This is very important, and just keep that big picture perspective, keep our overall goals in mind. And if you've gotten any questions for me, I'm sorry I didn't participate quite as much as maybe I wanted to this week, but the second week of the semester is sometimes a little bit more hectic than the first. And even though we're in the second week of a module, we're also in the second week, finishing the second week of the semester on campus in the traditional format, and this is probably the busiest 2 weeks we have. So now things are going to settle into a better pattern, and we're going to go from there. Any questions, please. People have felt free to contact me, either through the Ask the Professor, or some folks have sent me emails. Some of us have been in contact on a couple of issues offline that are just really something that need to be answered between one student and the instructor. Feel free to do that, okay? That's the best way to communicate. Email is the best way. I look forward to what we're going to get out of this week. I think the discussions have been great, and I don't see any reason why we're not going to go on with it. So thanks again. If there's any questions, please contact me.